The sun hadn't even crested the Georgia pines when Private Riley Kane stepped off the rattling bus at Fort Benning, her duffel slung over one shoulder like it weighed nothing, though every eye in the formation watched her like she was carrying a bomb. 22 years old, 5'6" in boots, hair scraped back into a regulation bun so tight it looked painful. She was the only woman in a platoon of 32 men who'd already decided she didn't belong. The drill sergeants barked orders that ricocheted off the barracks like gunfire. But the real venom came in whispers. Look at Barbie, think she's G.I. Jane. Bet she cries by week 3. Riley didn't flinch. She'd heard worse in foster homes, in juvie hallways, in the mirror every morning since she was 12. But when she dropped her bag and rolled up her sleeve to tie her boot, a flash of something white and jagged peeked. From beneath the cuff of her uniform a scar that ran from wrist to elbow like a lightning bolt frozen in skin. One recruit saw it, then another. The whispers stopped. If this is your first time here and you're already leaning in, hit that subscribe button real quick, so you don't miss what happens when that scar finally speaks. The first week was a crucible designed to break spirits. Dawn runs through swamps that sucked boots off feet, push-ups in pouring rain, until knuckles bled, night so cold the metal bunks felt like ice slabs. Riley never complained. She outran half the platoon on the 5-mile ruck, carried the sore gunner's pack when he buckled, and still found breath to hum old country songs under her mask of sweat. The men hated her for it. Sergeant Hicks, a thick-necked Alabaman with a chew-stained grin, made it his mission to single her out. Kane, you drop and give me 20 every time you breathe too loud. She did. 50. 100. The platoon laughed until the day she beat Hicks himself in the obstacle course, vaulting the Berlin Wall like it was a porch step, landing cat-quiet while he wheezed at the top. That night in the chow hall, someone dumped a tray of gravy over her tray. Oops. Butterfingers. Laughter. Riley just wiped it off with a napkin, slow, deliberate, eyes locked on the culprit, a wiry kid from Jersey named Moretti, until he looked away first. But the real war wasn't on the grinder. It was in the barracks after lights out. The men formed a circle around her bunk one night. Flashlights under chins like ghost stories. Tell us, princess, what's a girl like you doing in a place like this? Moretti again, bolder now. Running from a bad boyfriend. Daddy issues? Riley sat up, spine straight, trying to sleep. Move? They didn't. Someone yanked her blanket. Another flicked her pillow away. Then Hicks off duty, reeking of Copenhagen, leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. Let her be, boys. She's got to save her energy for when she quits. Riley stood. The circle tightened. She could smell their sweat, their fear dressed up as cruelty. Touch me, she said, voice low, and you'll limp for the rest of training. A beat of silence. Then Moretti reached for her arm, the scarred one, and yanked the sleeve up to the shoulder. The room went dead quiet. The scar wasn't just a scar. It was a canyon of burned and grafted skin, puckered and pale, twisting from wrist to bicep like shrapnel had tried to write its name in her flesh. A murmur rippled. Jesus, what the hell happened to her? Hicks stepped closer, flashlight beam trembling. Riley didn't cover it. She let them look, let them see the smaller marks, 2 circular burns like cigarette tips. A thin white line across the throat, barely hidden by her collar. Souvenirs, she said finally. Now get out. They scattered like roaches when the light flips on. Hicks lingered longest, something unreadable flickering across his face, guilt, maybe, or recognition. He left without a word. Word spreads in boot camp like wildfire in pine straw. By morning, the whole company knew Private Kane was the scarred girl. Some looked away, some stared harder. The drills didn't ease up, if anything. The sergeants pushed her more like they were testing how much damage a body could take before it quit. Riley gave them nothing. She graduated top of her squad in marksmanship, aced the land nav course blindfolded. Literally. They made her do it as punishment for attitude, and on the final ruck march, when Private Lopez collapsed with heat stroke, she hoisted his 180 pounds across her shoulders and carried him the last 2 miles to the finish line. The medic said later Lopez would have died without her. The platoon clapped her on the back that night, awkward, grudging but real. Moretti even offered her the last Mountain Dew from his care package. She took it, didn't say thank you, didn't need to. Graduation day dawned brutal, 105 degrees. humidity thick as chow hall gravy. Families filled the bleachers, waving tiny flags, hollering when their soldier's name crackled over the loudspeaker. Riley had no one. She stood ramrod straight in the formation, eyes front, until the guest of honor arrived, Colonel Marcus Thorne, commander of the infantry school, a man whose medals clinked like wind chimes when he walked. He was supposed to give a speech, pin the EIB badges, shake a few hands, and leave. But when the platoon filed past for the final review, Thorne's eyes snagged on Riley. She felt it like a sniper's laser. He stopped directly in front of her, the entire formation frozen mid-march. "Private Kane," he said, voice carrying without a mic. "Step forward." The bleachers hushed. Cameras zoomed. Riley obeyed, boots crunching on gravel. Thorne's gaze dropped to her arm, the scar peeking again beneath the rolled sleeve. His face drained of color so fast she thought he'd faint. The microphone squealed as he leaned in, whispering so only she could hear. "My God, it's you." Flashback to 8 years earlier, a trailer park outside Tulsa, midnight, the air thick with cicadas and cheaper whiskey. 12-year-old Riley crouched under the kitchen table, clutching a butter knife, while her mother's boyfriend, Marcus, back then just a staff sergeant on leave, screamed about money, about respect, about how dare she hide his stash. The fight spilled into the living room. A lamp shattered. Then the gun came out. Riley's mom lunged to protect her. The shot was deafening. Mom dropped. Riley screamed. Marcus turned, eyes wild, and the gun swung toward the table. Riley stabbed upward butter knife into his thigh. He howled, backhanded her so hard her head cracked the linoleum. Then he poured the whiskey over her arm, lit a cigarette, and pressed it down. Again, again. "So you remember," he snarled. "So you never forget who you belong to." Sirens wailed. He fled out the back. Riley burned and bled until the paramedics came. Her mom didn't make it. Riley went into the system. Marcus went UA, then resurfaced years later with a new name, a chest full of ribbons, and a story about heroism in Fallujah that no one questioned. Until now, back on the parade field, the colonel's knees buckled. 2 aides caught him before he hit the ground. Riley stood frozen, the little girl under the table, and the soldier, in dress blues, colliding inside her chest. The crowd thought he was having a heat stroke. Only Riley saw the truth in his eyes, recognition, terror, shame. He tried to speak into the mic something about valor, about sacrifice, but the words choked off. Riley leaned in, close enough that the cameras couldn't read her lips. "I remember," she whispered. "Do you?" Thorne's hand went to his thigh, an old reflex, feeling for the scar she'd given him. He nodded once, a jerk so small it could have been a twitch. Then he did the only thing he could. He pinned the expert infantryman badge to her chest with shaking fingers, saluted her crisp, regulation, and moved on like a man walking a tightrope over hell. The ceremony ended in a blur of cheers and photographs. Riley's platoon hoisted her onto their shoulders, chanting her name like she'd won the Super Bowl. Moretti slipped her a Sharpie and had her sign his forearm to never quitting. Hicks stood off to the side, chewing nothing, staring at the ground. Later, in the parking lot, a black SUV idled. Thorne waited by the door, hat in hand, looking smaller than his legend. "I owe you an explanation," he started. Riley cut him off. "You owe me a childhood. Interest's too high." She walked past him to the bus that would take her to her first duty station, Fort Liberty, 82nd Airborne. But before she boarded, she turned back. "Sir, one thing." He looked up, hopeful, pathetic. "Next time you tell that Fallujah story, leave my mom out of it." The door hissed shut. The bus pulled away. In the rear view, she watched him stand there until he was a speck. Years later, soldiers at Benning still tell the story. How the colonel retired quietly 6 months after that graduation. How charges of desertion and conduct unbecoming surfaced then, vanished like smoke. How Private Kane, now Sergeant Kane, leads a platoon of her own. The scar on her arm, faded but never hidden. They say on her first day as an NCO, she gathered her Joes and told them straight, "I don't care where you came from. I care where you're going. But if any of you ever mock someone for surviving, male, female, doesn't matter, you'll run until your boots melt." Clear? They cleared. And when new recruits ask about the scar, she just smiles. Long story. Buy me a coffee after PT and maybe I'll tell it. The barracks lights dim eventually, but the legend doesn't. It lives in the cadence they chant on runs, in the way privates square their shoulders when life tries to break them, in the quiet knowledge that sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who's already been through hell and came back with fire in her veins. Riley Kane never quit. She just kept marching one boot in front of the other, scar and all, until the world had to salute. So, tell me in the comments, from which part of the country are you watching this video?